We're waiting for her to join. There she is. Hi, Paz.
Oh, hi.
Welcome.
How's it going? Let me, this is the first time I do this thing. Let's see
Yeah,
how I
get
look.
situated.
Oh,
It's my
yeah.
second, so
There you go.
we're learning together.
Nice to see you, Shannon. How are you
Nice
doing?
to see you. Thank you for your time again. Paz
Oh,
and
of
I
course.
chatted
Pleasure.
earlier this week, and she's in her studio, so we get to see a lot of her artwork. You can see
Mm-hmm.
some of it in the background there.
Yeah.
And I was just telling our viewers that you were one of the first muralists that we approached to work with us back when we had this crazy idea in April of 2020, and that you were one of the first muralists out in the streets back when we didn't know if this was going to be a 2 week or 3 week thing. And yeah, it's obviously evolved for us, and your career's evolved. And yeah, today I think we'd love to just hear about your experience with Paint the Void, and then also just all of the incredible artwork you do, which ranges from murals to installation artwork. All of it super healing and interactive, and community based. So I'm a huge fan of yours, and I'm just really grateful that you're able to take time to talk with us today and
Yeah.
be a part
Well,
of the
thank you so much.
project.
I'm very excited. And I'm such a fan of your work, Paint the Void. Yeah, I guess I was one of the first artists in going out in the streets under this program and painting a mural. And it was quite scary at that time because I think it was April of last year. So the pandemic was exploding at that time. And I was a little bit like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be in public? I haven't left my house for so long. So I think it was just the first time that I kind of went out and acknowledged that there's work to do as artists and art administrators in the world, in all levels. So it was a great experience. Even that at the beginning it was a little bit like, oh, what am I going to do here? It was really really great. And what I really liked about that is not only that you guys provided or you know spaces for artists to express. It's just that there is a whole heal the city, heal the city from what we're suffering. Like it's like a escape for people to enjoy new ways of looking at the city, of looking at how art can heal, and how artists and art administrations can be a catalyst for change and for transformation. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was very I was psyched about that mural.
And that's something I think we were introduced to you because you share a studio with one of our other co-founders, Inga. Your
Mm-hmm.
work is obviously so beautiful, and I was just blown away when I saw your artwork and saw that you were interested in wanting to go out into the street and paint murals. Because again, back then we didn't really have much funding. We didn't have an idea if it was approved or not. So just your excitement to be involved in our project was such an honor. But now that I've learned more about you and read up about you and had conversations with you, I mean, this is sort of what your artwork is all about, right? Like how you talk about on your website, transforming the relationship we have with urban environments and with ourselves. And you work with a lot of labyrinths and a lot of these incredibly beautiful organic patterns
Mm-hmm.
to, in my mind, like bring me into a more mindful or meditative state when I'm out and seeing your artwork in the streets. So um, that's how I view it, and I feel like how you kind of explain it on your website. But I'd love for you to share with our viewers, like,
Mm-hmm.
what is your inspiration and what is your artwork, and also just a little bit more about yourself in general and where you're from and where your beautiful accents from and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, there's so many questions. Let's yeah, I can start saying that my work, I mean, I'm a storyteller. I like to use art as a way of changing the perception of one story that we either inherited or have been told that that's the right story, or just thinking that artists, we can be witches. We have the capacity to transform. And one of the things that I really like is I like to work with materials that people throw away, things that we just throw away. We think that it's not going to serve us. They create trash. So I like to think about that as a way to change that story and give the material an opportunity to keep existing, but with a different narrative, that that is not the narrative that we are used to. So so my work can be, I mean, I do drawings, I do site specific drawings, as these murals. I like to work with the architecture. I mean, I feel like as an artist, the city is telling us so many things about how we create a space, common space. Community is very important for me, especially now in terms of pandemic and COVID. All this separation that we feel with ourselves, with our families, with our community. I think that art has that capacity to really bridge and put us back together. So when I envision on our project, first I like to tell a story and change the story that the material carries. Mm-hmm. And I also like to empower people, empower communities to really take action. For example, these labyrinths that I've been creating. I mean, the most recent one was at the Palo Alto City Hall, and this was with the Palo Alto Public Art Program. That those are the people who funded this project.
I'm gonna pause you for 1 second. Just mm-hmm. You can keep talking, but I'm just gonna let you know I'm gonna switch my camera around and I'm gonna pull up your website to show people the labyrinth you're talking about, just so they see
the labyrinth. Yeah,
it's so similar but very different from your the murals in a sense. Great. So I'll pull that up.
So that labyrinth, there was like this soccer field in Palo Alto that they were going to change the astroturf. And that astroturf, like that fake turf and grass, was going to be thrown to the dump, I guess. And so they asked me, like, what would you do with this? Like, let's just brainstorm about what would you do. And I was like, oh, I think that we need to change the story of like astroturf comes from a soccer field and is going to be the end of it. I'm just going to think about how can I extend the life of this material, and instead of like being something that is being used for sports, let's just radically transform that story into how about we empower people to meditate and walk this labyrinth while they are acknowledging where that material comes from. And they also they empower themselves to really meditate and think about all the pandemic and all the problems that we have this year. So this is what we did, and that's what you guys are seeing is that labyrinth in front of City Hall.
And when was this installed again?
So this was installed last July, and we took it down 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, this is
very recently. Yeah, it was there like for 6 months.
Yeah, what an incredible piece, especially like you said during this time.
Yeah,
to connect with art and see art as healing and see it in a different form. I'm so in love with this piece.
Oh, thank you.
Some of your other labyrinths too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm drawn to labyrinths. I mean, I'm mostly drawn to religious archetypes or religious paraphernalia. Like all kind of like this popular culture around religion and ritual. I mean, I'm very drawn to that. So my work is kind of the reflection of that. I always say that I grew up Catholic in Spain, and that's where I'm from, under like very strict Catholicism. And thanks to that, I think I'm a witch now. I'm kind of like, I'm balancing and integrating the witch part of me with that religious part that I mean, still is there, but I'm transforming into something else. So
that's really beautiful. And I feel like that's a story that a lot of us can relate to, whether we grew up religious or there's rituals in our day-to-day life or things that we're transforming from, even just considering the past year, like how much of a transformation and the year has been for both good and bad, but how we've had to like sit with ourselves, being sheltered at home, and really reflect on who we are and what is important in our day-to-day life. And maybe if we don't have rituals, like what rituals can we bring into our life? I have so many more friends and family members that are turning to meditation and yoga and daily rituals to, find purpose, which we create our own purpose, I think, and this is a beautiful, display of how we can do it. And I think, have you always used these sort of patterns and swooping designs in all of your work, or how did you come to find that sort of technique?
I mean, they're always been there. I've always been fascinated by the complexity and the simplicity of things, like how something can be very complex and very simple at the same time. And, all these patterns that you can see in my drawings, like, let me show you this,
I love
drawings that I do. They really inform paths to be contemplated or walked. It's kind of like the same idea of meditation. It can be a walking meditation, or it can be just staring at these intricate lines. Let me just show them. Intricate lines that you can just, kind of get lost on them of something like that.
On your website, you have these as sort of like they're like they're related to plants and plant drawings. Is that right?
Some of them are related to plants, yeah. And I wanna talk about like the new work that I've been creating. My work is inspired by the city. I'm a city person, but and I try to integrate or how we talk, so like sometimes about alchemy. We were talking yesterday, about alchemy. For me, alchemy is about integration. So when I talk about the city, I talk about cement. I talk about communities that are broken apart. I talk about, people who live in the streets, but I also talk about nature and what is that part of nature that grows in the streets. And nature is medicine, and plants have been, they've been living before humans. So they carry knowledge, they carry stories, and they carry that medicine that I like to use to heal these stories that I see in the city that are kind of like broken. So yeah, I've been using plant magic and medicine for quite a while, but I've never been able to dedicate my time to really research and do a project that is research based, and also combines all these archetypes and this popular culture around plants and plant knowledge. So it was last year no, because last year was this parenthesis, for all of us. I keep saying last year, but I mean to say 2019.
I think I get it.
Like last year, like
last year didn't happen.
Anyway, 2019, I had the opportunity to be in Monterrey at the Monterrey Museum, and I did an arts residency for a month where I focused on this healing aspect of connecting with plants, and how these stories that we grew up with, that I'm fascinated by, have the medicine that we can use to transform these ailments that we see in our psyche personally, on a personal level or on a collective level. So I spent some time in Monterrey, and I can maybe now is a good time maybe to show this work.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me see how this works. Let me see. Maybe doing it by hand better. Is that
you guys can see that? I can also just do what I did before and go on the pictures on your website if that's helpful too.
Yeah. Let me see how that works. So basically, at Monterrey, I created this pop-up store that was inspired by the these botanical stores that are from Mexico, this like Mexican Spanish.
Like sort of
they
pharmacy,
have like both heritage, yeah. The Santeria, exactly, Santeria, and they have like all kinds of like religious amulets and potions.
Apothecaries.
Apothecaries, yeah. So inspired by that, I collected plants from certain gardens and certain places, plants that carry a story, in this case about colonization. And because plants were colonized as well, I mean, they were brought by colonizers. So there's like indigenous plants, but there's also plants that were brought, like you can call them invasive, you can call them non-native. Right. Some of them they naturalize here, they adapt it. You know, it's like plants and people. They have similar stories. You know, as you can tell. But those plants, both native and plants that are coming from another parts, they both are part of the same story of colonization. So they both are part of the medicine that is going to heal that story. So, and that's one of the things about alchemy and shadow integration I like to use in my projects, not only one side of the story, but both, because a story has always two sides, and the two sides, they need to bring the healing. So for example, this elixir you can see here,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yes.
elixir, um, I can I can read it.
Yeah.
It's called Colonize Me Not, and it's made with three invasive plants. Is only using invasive plants because the medicine is what, I mean, the poison is the medicine. So you want to use the poison, what we call poison, into medicine. So we have three invasive plants that are not native, like roses, lavender, and rosemary. And when I mean roses, I don't mean the California roses, you know, like the native flowers, but the roses.
Ah, interesting.
And yeah, and so this elixir, it says like it's effective healing for inflictors and sufferers of exploitation, abuse, segregation, speculation, and other forms of neo-colonialism. So,
Wow.
so yeah. So I work with Artemisia a lot.
With what?
Artemisia.
What's
Artemisia is a
that?
mugwort.
Okay.
It's a native plant, and I've created two different kinds of medicine here. I like the story that Artemisia carries. You know, I don't know if you can see it there, but this
It's a little blurry.
Artemisia, you know, is being it's also a Greek goddess. So I incorporate myth as well into these projects because I think it's very fun, and it helps with the storytelling. So with Artemisia, I did a tincture uh, uh, and an oil. It's called Fight Patriarchy Mugwort Oil because Artemisia because Artemisia is the goddess of a warrior. I'm going to sit down back here again. Is the goddess warrior. So symbolizes like the hunter, you know, the hunter versus the gatherer woman, like the hunter, the woman who was more like, go and do it. Let's fight for resources, you know. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good storytelling.
Is there a place we can buy these tinctures or learn more about
Mm-hmm.
them?
Yeah, I have everything online. I don't have a lot of tinctures because through this last year, because I've done so much healing for friends and families. I've been sending them all, but yeah, I still have some of the tinctures available on my website.
I'll
On
share onto the
mm-hmm,
chat right now your
mm-hmm.
website and your
Yeah,
newsletter list too.
yeah.
Yeah, how do you use them? Like how do you use your tinctures in practice?
Well, um, I think that it's empowering to just educate people about the capacity of plants for healing, not only from the medicine from the plant itself, from the physical medicine that you take, but also the story that they carry, and their connection with the myth, because the myth and the archetypes, it's a way of storytelling that we can embrace, and we can understand our own story by comparing it with the big picture. So all the and I'm very into, because I'm European, right, or Spanish. I'm more connected with the European pantheon, like Greek, Roman pantheon, but I work with myths from all over the world, and that as long as they serve my own story, and serve like for the healing, I've been using that. So what I've been using also, I've been painting murals, and the mural that I did for Paint the Void had I painted it also doing this technique that I've kind of it's not that I invented it, but I've been using it for a few years, which is I infuse the paint and the colors and the pigments with the medicine of the plants.
Oh, really? I don't think
So,
I knew that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
sometimes it's in a symbolic way, like I only put like 3 or 4 drops, and sometimes it's like a lot of it. I'm gonna go back
So the
to.
work, I mean, I feel like it must be so meditative in the way in which you apply it and create
Mm-hmm.
your patterns and line work, but there's also so much intention behind
Uh-huh.
not only the line work, but the actual paint. That's
The actual
beautiful.
paint, yeah. So let me show you here. I created this. I don't know if you guys can see it because it's a little
I think you need to bring it
dark,
up a little bit.
but you
Oh,
can
I
see it.
like it.
So it's an old bottle,
I
and this
love
one has
it.
like a mint, fennel, and mugwort um, dye. It's a mix of pigment dyes with the tincture. So the extract of the medicine from these 3 plants, and I've been using, and this one too. We have these are the pigments, and the other one is the medicine. So what I do is I mix that with the paint, with the pigments, and then I create these drawings.
Yeah, if you can zoom it, bring the drawings are so beautiful.
And these
So,
drawings are like, these are for Artemisia as well. This is like an Artemisia a series that I did.
so beautiful. Oh, you might want to come back a little bit. It's a little hard to see. There we go. And
And
are these on maps?
so yeah, so the interesting part of this is that I use these vintage maps that I got from UC Berkeley, and I have lots and lots of these maps. And then I looked at the maps, and I mean the maps are from like different parts of the United States, but many of the maps they feature the Olympic National Forest, and that's when I clicked and I'm like, oh, storytelling, Olympic, Olympus, the goddess
Yeah.
Artemisia is on the Olympus. So
Wow. It all
this has the
connected.
story of Artemisia uh, with her essence, the colors, and it has also the national forest, the Olympic National Forest. I don't know if
Oh, there
this
we
can be
go.
seen.
Yeah, if you could pull it back a little bit.
The Olympic National Forest there.
And it's interesting that the line work in the maps is also
Mm-hmm.
complementary to your work as
Yeah.
well.
So yeah. So this I have a series of these drawings with Artemisia. They're available in my website. They're made with charcoal because I love to use very simple materials. I'm even that my work has a very complex outlook. The materials that I use are pretty simple. I normally use pigments that I find in nature or that I buy, and charcoal, which is kind of like a
Natural.
burnt piece of wood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Just
I love that. I think that simplicity is also something like it's the thought of everything is meditative and extremely complex. Um,
Mhm,
but I also really enjoy how you talk about how things are playful and you work with a lot of playful, interactive
mhm,
artwork as well.
mhm,
So I think that like deep meditative, consciousness that is a deep and like heavy subject to carry within artwork.
mhm,
But at the same time, there is this like playfulness and interactivity that you really speak to. So I'd
mhm,
love to hear about that. I'm going to jump over here for 1 second, but if you could talk about that playfulness, I think it would be for our followers would be really interesting
mhm,
because I think that's where your work comes to life. Whether it be the murals or the labyrinths that we showed everyone
mhm,
earlier. There's this
mhm,
there's this like asking for the audience to engage, which to me really pulls me into your work.
mhm.
Be right back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I believe that I mean, as an artist, I believe that um, I mean, your work or my work can be very serious, but I think that in order to touch people's hearts, and I think that humor is actually the way to do it. And with humor, I don't mean to make fun of things. It means to kind of create a little connection, a little integration, because humor is shadow work. and because I'm all for shadow work, I think that when there's a problem, a very healthy attitude is to use some sort of humor, because we all connect with humor, and humor has like that capacity to integrate our deepest fears or our deepest shadow, you know. And so I believe that we have the capacity to open up better and heal better if it's something playful. I mean, a labyrinth is something really, really playful. You know, you you can touch it with your feet. You know, you're walking it. You're like inside. You're like completely embedded in the artwork itself. Let me show you another project that I wanted to show you guys. If you see that over there, that's part
Oh
of
yeah,
the
I love these.
Monterey.
I'll show some of them on your website too. I was just
That's
looking.
part of the Monterey Cypress project that I did for the Monterey Museum in 2019, so a little bit over a year ago. And this is also created the same way as the labyrinth is created, you know, using fake turf that I found on a local park. And so I feel like the
Ooh, it looks
capacity
soft.
being able to touch it and see how, you know, like all the details that
Is it
a
similar
shirt
to
can
the
hold.
Boko Lika? Is that how you pronounce it? That's on your
Yes,
website too.
yeah, yes,
I can
yes,
show viewers that
yeah.
too.
And this project, you know, I mean, it questions the use of fake, exactly, the questions the use of fake grass instead of like natural grasses. But I wanted to feature that with like a material that is very controversial, which is astroturf. It's all made of plastic. I don't know if it's recyclable or not. I kind of doubt it. But I love to use it because it has a lot of flexibility to really, you know, like all these details, and it's very playful. So it's this playfulness that I'm talking about. It's the playfulness of like you being able to touch and enjoy the touch that I really really like.
Yeah, I
So
love it. I want to like when you're touching it, it makes me want to touch it.
yeah. So with this
But I
project,
would
what I
love to
did.
also hear more about because, like you sort of mentioned, bringing in these like used materials or materials that are seen as trash and garbage, and
Mhm.
aren't particularly recyclable. And I think that that to me relates to that idea of bringing in a poison or bringing in an invasive species, and that seems to be a very common themality in your work. And is that something that you've always sort of seen, like the worked with shadows and darkness and thought of art as healing, or is that something that's just evolved with the way in which you create?
Mhm. That's a very good question. Um, let's see. I've always worked with that, but I was never conscious that I did. I don't know if that makes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now going to work that I've done, you know, when I lived in Mexico or when I was in Spain, you know, 20 years ago when I was starting, uh, I I did this work that now I can see. Oh my God, I was doing what I'm doing now. Maybe with different materials, different icons, different archetypes, but it was the same work. I was just not conscious about that. I hadn't
Wow.
developed the language to you know, my statement was not there, but the artwork was already reflecting that
Well, that's sort of
playfulness.
like art is sort of, I feel like when I talk to many artists, they're like, when I'm in my flow, I'm really connected to something outside of myself. Like when you're painting or when you're creating, you're not particularly thinking and planning about it in advance. It's like the spiritual connection to something greater. So maybe you're on this path, like you said, without knowing it. But when you look at every single one of your artworks on your website, like I'm showing everyone, and they have the commonality, whether it be an installation, whether it be a labyrinth, whether it be a mural, is, and now knowing more about your murals and your painting and that you're putting alchemy into the paint, there is this really common theme of transformation and connection. And I just love, especially given COVID and given the pandemic, like how you're bringing darkness into the light and embracing it, and embracing
Mm-hmm.
trash and embracing the things that people look down upon,
Mm-hmm.
to like bring us, accept it. Maybe it's acceptance or showing a beautiful side of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that really like speaks to me and has helped me also during this time. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I love it all.
Yeah, yeah. Here's the thing: the unconscious mind. Um, I mean, art is the language of the unconscious mind. So when, as artists, we try to explain exactly why we do what we do, I mean, like our conscious mind can explain very clearly. Oh, this is what I do. This is how. This is my mission in the world. This is what my artwork means. But there is some part of the artwork that can never really be explained because it's not explainable. It's part of the other story, you know. And because we live in this duality, we only tend to acknowledge what we see, what we can touch, what we can really hold on to. But there's this other side of the story that we cannot control, and we just need to honor. And that's the space for magic. That's where magic happens, when you start looking at the other side of the stories, when you're opening yourself into, oh, this is not what my beliefs are, but how about if I look into something else that I'm not aware of? So you want to integrate everything, you know, because the polarization is what makes us vulnerable, really.
Do you do any other types of talks or workshops? I'm like, I want to be involved in more. I know we only have like a half hour. We said we'd keep it to 30 to 40 minutes, but I'm like, I could just listen to you forever because I'm
Yeah, yeah.
totally in love with all of this work. And I think it's important
Mm-hmm.
work. And to your point, we don't often dive into the unconscious or like that
Mm-hmm.
magic space. And art, I do think, helps bring us there. I think that's why art can be healing. It allows us to see things in different perspectives and tap into things in a playful, beautiful way. It doesn't need to be this harsh reality of like something that's hard to take in.
Mm-hmm.
But art is essential and is healing in that way. But the way you speak about it is just so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I never thought about that though. I'm writing this PDF that I'm gonna offer to everybody who wants to have it, basically. It's not done yet, but I'm hoping to have it maybe like in a month or something.
Okay.
Or I'm like writing. I will write, and I will talk about this experience that I have, and that I've been going deeper in the last few years, which is like how art is really uh, it's really the secret for shadow magic and integration. And if you can see, there's a lot of people right now doing like, join my vision board, join my dance and meditation. I mean, all this like going into the body, which means like painting, moving, listening to music, making music, all these areas where everything is floating and we don't know where that comes from. That's the area where magic and healing happens. So a lot of people are tuning into that. And uh, so I like, because I'm a visual artist, I'm gonna write my experience with that in a PDF, and I'm just gonna give that to, to people who maybe join my mailing list, or they want to be in touch in other ways,
Yeah. So will you
So,
distribute that on your mailing list?
yeah, yeah, I think I will. I'm writing it. I'm having ideas, and I'm writing it there,
I would
and
love to read it and I'll sign up. I pasted for anyone following along. I pasted the sign up as well, but you can also just go
mhm,
to, well, I'll post this after we're off the chat and I can have a link in the bio
mhm,
too. So you can follow
mhm.
along with Paz's work and her newsletter. But I
Yeah.
think that is really important. Yeah, I'd love to hear your experience because being on the opposite, I create art. I'm an artist, sort of, but not that successful. But being in the art administration side and the logistics and business side of it all, I think, the real driving fact and reason why I do this with Paint the Void and why I have Building 180, which is our art production company, is to bring more artwork into the world. And I think the core of it is exactly what you're saying, is it creates magic and creates
Hmm.
contemplation and creates healing. And it isn't something that you can easily describe or share. It's a feeling and it's an emotion that doesn't have like this science behind it. So I would love to
Hmm.
hear more about your thoughts on that. And I
Yeah.
just I just love so much how you bring it into all of your artwork. I've been blown away. Like I said, I hadn't known you prior to Paint the Void, and just been blown away by your portfolio and your work. And yeah,
Oh,
the
thank you.
that unconscious state of it all. Like there is yeah, like you can just see your line work right behind you, hanging behind you. There's just like this beauty to it. Um, and without even knowing that there's these medicines and things within it, I feel like I can connect to that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well, thank you.
everybody should sign up for the newsletter.
Yeah, yeah, sign up. I would love to hear, I mean, other people's journeys, around this. For me, being an artist and being a person is kind of the same thing. I can't really, because it's so, I can separate, So I like to hear what other people's experiences are around how does art serve you to really transform yourself and to facilitate the change to a different consciousness or to a different state. How do you use art to put yourself together, like if it's just like art's a healing tool, I mean, and we're all making art because it's kind of our
Oops.
medicine.
I think we maybe lost Paz or me.
Oh,
Are you still there? Oh, you're there.
I'm
It was a
here.
little. I was taking notes that I'm going to
I
post
can
about
see
later.
you. I,
Just
I can see you there. I
okay.
think we're both on it.
Great, great. I was just taking some notes to share for
Yeah.
later. I think I love a
Hmm.
lot of the things that you had said. Um, well, yeah. I mean, to wrap up our conversation, is there any last thing you would like to share to maybe inspire the audience or
Hmm.
share a dream work that you have?
Hmm. Yeah.
Anything you want to share?
Um, let's see. Well, I've been doing these little videos for new moons, which is gonna happen in 2 days. I need to come up with a new moon video where I talk about art and plants and how everybody can do these little meditations that they don't have to be very elaborate, but it can be just connecting with one plant on a different month. And yeah, so if you sign up for my mailing list or like follow me on Instagram or something, like um, I'm gonna try to bring these ideas more to the public and open to the dialogue, just to see what other people are doing. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know. Let,
That's
let
a
me check my
lot.
notes instead of like see if I have something else that I
Yes,
need to say. But
definitely. And again, I will
um,
totally post this and link to your Instagram and your newsletter so people
yeah,
can sign up. But I know that
yeah,
that's something I'm very interested
mhm,
in. So
mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
excited that
Also,
you have these
I do
videos.
I do two art sales every year, and now they're going to be online because Open Studios is not happening here in our building. I have a studio in San Francisco in a warehouse with a lot of other artists, and we're a very big and good community here. And we haven't done Open Studios for a whole year, and it's not going to
Oh,
happen anytime soon. So if you sign for my mailing list, I will keep you posted. And I do promotions and sales, and yeah, so you will be
and you
able
sell
to.
your artwork and you sell some of the tinctures you said as well.
Hmm. Yeah,
Great.
and then on my store, you can buy some of my artwork. I do also like been doing recently, with COVID, studio visits like this one for somebody who wants to see the work, and I kind of show them what I have, and we have a talk, and then it's a good way for me to be in touch with everybody.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and
Oh
sharing your
no, thank you.
inspiration and sharing, I think, really powerful and meaningful messages about artwork and also just reflection and transformation within ourselves. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of your work and been following along and learning different things about myself through your artwork,
Hmm.
which I think is the purpose of artwork. So thank you for
Oh,
everything you've
thank you
given
so
me.
much.
And thank you for
No,
being one of the
thank you.
first artists to take a chance with us to be like, all right, I'll go out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking back, it like made so much more sense to be like, oh my gosh, it's
Hmm.
this like nature coming and taking back over the city during this pandemic. So there's so many crazy synchronicities about your artwork and you being one of the first muralists to work with us. So I really thank you because it
Hmm.
was a and it is a crazy time, but it definitely was back in April of 2020. So
Hmm.
we're also appreciative of you, of your artwork and sharing your artwork with us and with the city. And I just love that so much of your artwork is interactive and public. So thank
Hmm.
you.
Well, thank you guys for including me and inviting me to do this project, getting me out of my quarantine routine and being an artist again, you know, like artist in the world. And for the great work that you guys do, you know, like from fundraising to reaching out to artists to putting people together and having this vision is very important for uh, people who are artists, but also for the people who are the administrators who have the capacity to really put the community together is important. Like, so I really thank you for that. And
Oh,
I
thanks.
I
Yeah.
look forward to being in touch and getting to know more about you and the rest of the Paint the Void people. So
I know one
thank
day
you
we'll
so
have an
much.
event. We keep being like, we can do an event. We can invite all the artists. We can meet everyone.
I know that would be great to have like
One day.
how many murals? 130 you guys have funded
Yeah,
already?
that is we're completing. I think we have like 10 to hit 130, but that is
Wow. I
um
wonder if we ever will be 130 people in the same room again.
oh, we hope we're trying to we're in our day to day behind our computers trying to curate an exhibit and a book. Um and we've started a signal chat to get all the artists together and create a community around that. Um so trying to get people together in this digital world we're in now, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
a physical space sometime soon, but definitely conscious of COVID and trying to be safe. But I thrive off of like the physical and the connection with people. So there will
Mm-hmm.
be a time where we'll all be together. I just don't know when that will be.
Okay.
And
Well,
hopefully
hopefully
featuring
meet
all of
sooner
your
than
artwork.
later. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We could celebrate.
All right. Well, I will repost this later and we can share it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll put all of your links on there. So anyone following along, follow Paj. She's amazing. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
All
Have a
right.
great day. Bye.
Bye.